I've said it before and I'll say it again. Corporate America is having a moment, and not a very good one, where people feel compelled to be hateful and ugly and behave in a way that we would reprimand kindergartners for. And when we put ourselves out there, our work and our creative endeavors, and they fall short or worse, we find ourselves on the receiving end of someone else's vitriol. It can not just ruin our day, but if left unchecked, can really leave a hole in our self-confidence. Which is why I want to discuss the 3 mindset shifts that I want you to make so that you can stay on the top of your game. Because as Taylor says, haters gonna hate, but let's focus on what we can control. If you're new to my channel, hi and welcome. My name's Kristen. I'm an attorney and tech exec turned executive career coach. I help mid to senior level corporate women get promoted and transition into work they love. And my goal with this channel is to curate a community of like-minded individuals that are kind and supportive and can help one another navigate corporate America. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so number 1, accept that not everyone is going to like you. I remember years ago watching Marie TV. If you're a fan of Marie Forleo, so am I. And she had on a marketing expert that talked about how you needed to narrow your focus when looking at an audience. And I think this is true not just for a product or a service, but for ourselves as well. And the analogy this expert gave was regarding pistachio ice cream. There are some people that will drive all the way across town in rush hour for pistachio ice cream. And there are some people that are going to hate it, and it's not going to be for them no matter what you do to dress it up. The same is true for us as individuals. There will be some colleagues and some people in the world that don't like us no matter what we do. Rather, we should focus on the people who are going to love us no matter what. And again, it doesn't really matter whether it's our skill set or our values or our similarities or the fact that they see something in us that they see in themselves. What we want to do is curate relationships with those individuals. And I'm not talking about being a Pollyanna and not taking criticism in the workplace, but it's the fact that we take so much criticism in the workplace. And criticism might help us with some small details, but as far as inspiring us, as far as building our confidence, as far as uplifting us and allowing us to do our best work, it's those individuals who are supportive of us that we want to curate relationships from. And it's those individuals from whom we want to take the criticism. And it's from those individuals we want to take the constructive feedback. So align yourself with those who light you up, who understand your value, who believe in you, and who know your worth. Number 2, you might be planted in the wrong spot. The same way a palm tree cannot thrive in Minnesota, you might not be able to thrive because of who you are surrounded with in the workplace. So years ago, I had a client. She was a lawyer. She was a senior associate at the time, and she had started at her firm as an intern. She made straight A's through law school, worked there the whole time, and had worked her way up to senior associate. She received rave reviews, stellar feedback, and was an absolute rock star. So it really knocked the wind out of her when the partner she previously worked for left that firm and she was assigned to a new partner. This partner was extremely critical, and her reviews went from stellar to needs improvement. And the worst part was, she believed it. Now, sometimes feedback is valid, but it's so important to always be discerning as to whether or not it really applies in your situation. And in this situation, it did not. You don't just realistically and objectively go from high performing to lackluster in a heartbeat. And what I helped my client understand when she came to me is it was not her, it was the partner. And yes, it is terrible and unfair that your work environment can change because of one individual. But rather than focusing on what we could not control, we needed to accept that the environment had changed and she was now planted in the wrong place. She was now the palm tree in Minnesota. And what that meant long term is that she was not going to be coached, she was not going to be provided stretch assignments, and she was probably not going to make partner at this firm. So we developed a plan to help her thrive. We moved her to a new firm where she easily made partner within 2 years. Now, I share this story because I know that most of us believe those loud critical voices rather than the positive ones. And it's completely within our human nature. From a psychological standpoint, we're predisposed towards the negative. It's what helped our ancestors survive. If they believed the rumbling in the bush was a cute little bunny instead of a rattlesnake, a lot of them probably wouldn't be our ancestors. But stepping outside of such vitriol and criticism can allow us to see it clearly. So by speaking with a trusted friend, a colleague, or a coach about such feedback, we can understand it, we can dismiss it, which is probably what we need to do, and then we can move on with regard to planting ourselves in the right environment. And number three, and I know I might sound like your mom right now, but I want you to remember that other people's nastiness says a lot more about them than it does you. I've said this in other episodes, but any reaction, any emotion that we ever have, we are either acting out of love or we are acting out of fear. And when we act out of love in a work situation, that can look like joy, that can look like inclusion, that can look like collaboration, that can look like celebration and creativity. And conversely, when we act out of fear, that can look like one-upsmanship, that can look like bullying, that looks like condescension, that looks like gossip. And yes, there will always be individuals that do not deal with their own inner psyche and bring their trauma to work. And yes, absolutely, the right thing to do is to ignore it, especially if it's petty and small and it doesn't violate some policy. Here's what I've seen happen too often, is someone else's unresolved trauma gets into your own head and takes up space there without paying rent. Far too often, I've seen clients believe ugly comments and perceive them as truth. But more than that, it shuts them down and they stop taking risks, whether creatively, whether putting themselves out there for a raise or a promotion, or taking a chance to step into something they might really love. Instead of taking a seat at the table and offering creative problem-solving solutions, they're standing in the back of the room. And believe me when I say these next two things. So first, the only way that those haters win is when you stop. If you do not take risks, if you do not put yourself out there, if you do not introduce that new idea, then they win. And more than this being about you, if they can shut you down, they're going to shut someone else down too. And I know that you don't want that vicious cycle to continue. Again, talk to a colleague, talk to a coach, talk to a friend, but don't let someone else's bad behavior shrink you just because somebody else is being a jerk. And then finally, my number two that I know is true, and it might not be on your timeline, but karma is real. Now, that, and I think we make this mistake a lot, I know I do, that does not mean that you need to be the source of karma. Karma will come when it comes. But one of the mantras that I personally live by is how you do anything is how you do everything. And there will come a time when that other person's toxicity lands in the wrong place and there's someone in a position of power who can take control and can stop it. Trust me, I have lived long enough to see it, so please take comfort in that. I hope you found this helpful. And if there are other mindset shifts that you have implemented that you think might work for our community, I would love for you to share them in the comments. I come out with new material each week, and until then, take care.